Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Prime Answers. This is a weekly show where we go over a little bit of stuff happened at Nintendo Prime the next week, future plans, that stuff, kind of like a channel update sort of thing. And then we get into your questions from the past week that either came from Twitter, a community post, our patrons, or, well, just in direct reply to this video. In fact, if you have a question you would like to see answered about Nintendo Prime, myself, whatever it might be sure to go down to the comments on this video to do that. Also, since you're here, you might as well enter the Nintendo Prime, Nintendo Switch, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate giveaway through the gleam.io link down in the description. It is a 50,000 subscriber giveaway, which we are almost at 41, so we're getting there. And yeah, as soon as we have 50,000, we will announce a winner. All right, so let's just dive right into stuff that I have to update from this week. For starters, we're coming off the most successful week in Nintendo Prime history. Now, what do I mean by that? Most successful. Well, what I mean is that we have had more viewership over the last week than we have ever had in the entire history of Nintendo Prime. We had 134,800 views over the past week, which, yes, folks, that's higher than we had during E3 when we topped out at about 95,000 views. So we had about 40,000 views more than we had during E3, which to me is insane. We also gained 748 new subscribers this week, which is the most subscribers we have gained in a single week when I did not advertise a giveaway on Zelda Informer's Facebook page. So yeah, these are organic subs. I mean, yeah, we're doing a giveaway that encourages subs, but we're only getting people who are actually viewing the videos subscribing. So this is pretty much organic growth, and that's a lot in 1 week. Almost 1,000 new subscribers in 1 week. If that trend continues, I mean, heck, we'll be at 50K by the end of January at this rate. That being said, I don't expect it to continue, but if it did, that would be really, really cool. We also had record levels of ad-based revenue. I'm not allowed, for legal reasons, to get into the exact figures, but it's the highest amount of ad revenue we've ever had in a single week, despite the fact that I noticed something interesting. In having the highest week of viewership and the most amount of people who have seen ads this past week, we've actually had the lowest CPM we've ever had. So the CPM was sitting around $6. Usually it's around $9. So even for as good as the ad revenue was this week, it could have been much higher if we had our average CPM. I'm not sure why that is the case. Maybe they had a tendency to show just lower quality ads. And I'm part of a multi-channel network, which is supposed to boost your ad revenue, although I'm not sure that's the case. But hey, either way, it was the most successful week we've had in terms of revenue, subscribers, and viewership. Also, watch time hit an all-time high of 467,900 minutes of total watch time from all of you guys out there, which does equal 2/3 of this month's total, which is insane for 1 week, the end of November. Crazy. We had 17 videos go up this past week, which, again, hits what I wanted to hit, which was 2 to 3 per day. Very happy with that output. We did have one video hit 53,000 views and another hit 31,000, which explains a lot of the revenue, explains a lot of that viewership base. However, of the 15 other videos, they were averaging 3,400 views per video, which is actually double the usual viewer count per video we get. That doesn't mean we don't get videos that get up to 5 or 10 here and there, but on average, we're sitting around 1 to 1.5 thousand views. So to see that doubled, or more than doubled in this case, is cool. It also means that it wasn't just those 2 videos that blew up. All of our videos were getting more views than normal, so I'll take that. The only thing to get less views than normal was the podcast. I don't know why that's the case, but we'll see what happens with the episode for next week, because this is the first one I'm updating. And yes, the episode coming, for those who missed the live stream for it, is the Game Awards betting special between Eric and I, and you guys, in fact. It's going to be pretty crazy. Be sure to check it out on Monday. Unless you are a member of our Patreon, then you will see the audio version tomorrow. All right. Now, we hit 40,000 subs over the past week, which is crazy. We're actually really, really close to 41,000. So again, thank you guys so much for subscribing and enjoying the content. If you are a new subscriber, let me know why you subscribed. Was it the giveaway? Was it just because the giveaway reminded you of the fact that you've been watching my content and you haven't subscribed? Or that had nothing to do with the giveaway? Were you just here subscribing because you really liked my content this week? Let me know. I'm always aiming to improve my content. We got a whole month here before we get to 2019. It's time to sort about what new directions are going to be coming up here in 2019. And your guys' feedback on why you subscribed and what kind of content you're enjoying from me is massive in shaping what kind of content I make in the future. Because all the content I made this week, I really enjoyed making. But there's more content I would like to do that I'm not currently doing, and I really want to know what I'm doing now that's working for you guys. Not just working from a viewership perspective, but working on an individual level for your guys' enjoyment. Let me see. Speaking of the future stuff, I do want to work on some top 10s and more game reviews. I'm still planning at the time of recording this to review Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. However, the capture card situation is still really iffy on if I'll be able to pull that off before Smash Bros. Comes out. And reality is, once Smash Bros. Comes out, I'm not sure if there's a good time slot for the rest of this year to get out a Let's Go review. I don't do a ton of game reviews. My last one was Mario Tennis Aces. So the big thing for me is, do you guys want me, no matter what, to finish the Let's Go review, even if it's after Smash Bros. Comes out? I'm not currently planning to review Smash Bros., so review purpose-wise, Smash Bros. Won't get in the way. Just time-wise, wanting to play Smash Bros. Could get in the way. But that's okay. That happens with any piece of content when new games come out. So if it's something you would like to see me do no matter what, let me know. Typically, I don't do reviews unless we hit $300 a month on Patreon, where I actually just fell, as we flipped over the calendar to a new year, we fell under $200, which means you won't see any op-ed editorials for a little while until we get back up above $200. Maybe we'll end up back up above $200 after those Prime Answers, because one of you guys out there will want to become a $20 backer on Patreon at patreon.com/NintendoPrime, which would push us back over $200 and would also get you a spot on a podcast this month. But that's obviously up to you. Now, again, I want to get into some top 10s and game reviews more often. I don't think I'm going to be doing game reviews every month or anything like that. It's going to basically be when I feel like doing it until we hit that $300 goal on Patreon. If we hit $300 goals on Patreon sometime in 2019 and we maintain it, you could bet there's going to be more reviews and more reviews coming. I'm only promising one review per month if we hit that goal, but reality is there'll probably be multiple reviews per month if that goal is maintained. The longer and the more months we maintain $300 on Patreon, the more likely I am to do that. Now you might say, but Nate, why are you waiting for money, reasons to do reviews? They're very time consuming. Very, very, like in the time it takes me to review a game and, play the game, record the footage, edit it, review, blah, blah, blah. It's like 100+ hours of work. And by the time that's all done, you might get the video out and you'll make ad revenue on it. But, say I hit my average views of 1.5 to 2,000 views or whatever, on that review, what I make, $5 maybe. Like $5 isn't really going to get me much in terms of paying back my time I spent on the reviews. And the thing is, I enjoy making reviews, but this is a job for me, so I have to be a bit conscientious of where I am putting my time. Even this Let's Go review, I know it's not going to light the world on fire, but I'm also hoping that people enjoy the review enough that they're willing to come support on Patreon to make sure we do more reviews moving forward. Basically, I'm doing this review earnestly because I want to review the game, and secondly because I think it'll be great advertisement for the fact that if you want more reviews, we need your support to do that. So, let me know your thoughts on Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee down in the comments if you would like to see me finish that review no matter what, because technically we're not at our goal on Patreon. I don't have to review the game, but I want to. But I want to make sure it's still going to be relevant to you guys regardless of what else is going on. I think that's really it. The top 10s and everything, that's all, thanks to Nintendo's changes to the Creators Program, which you guys have questions about, so we'll get into that later. Because of their changes to that and their policies on YouTube, top 10s are even more viable than they've ever been, because now I don't have to worry about them claiming videos that show clips and footage of different games or music, etc. So that's already good. In fact, I've already put up two videos this week, actually, that were using Super Smash Bros. Ultimate trailers, and neither one of them have been claimed as of today. So I think the policy is already in effect. Don't quote me on that. I'm really hoping it's in effect. But, so awesome. We had an amazing week, and we'll see if this momentum continues. I don't think we're going to have another 30,000 or 50,000 view video this upcoming week, but if we can maintain above 3,000 views per video, I would be stoked about that, because that means we had some nice organic growth people interested in our other content, including Prime Answers. Last week's Prime Answers was our top viewed Prime Answers yet, which was our 3rd episode. However, I think it had a lot to do with the title, because the title focused on the one question about criticism. I don't know what the title of this one's going to focus on yet till we get through the questions and I see which answers I give that I feel like are the most informative and the best one to frame the video around. But yeah, thank you so much. Be sure to get your questions for next week down in the comments below. Let's get into your questions. The first ones came off of the last video. So these are ones off of last week's episode. And it says, this one's from NeoFlight23. He says, "Hi, Nathaniel. And I want to note, I know I don't put the questions on the screen for editing purposes because Prime Answers is intended to be kind of a quick and dirty editing session for me because it's on the weekends, and now I have to edit the podcast, so I really can't have complicated edits. I got to give NeoFlight23 credit. He spelled my first name correct. Most people do not spell Nathaniel correct because they do the common spelling of I-E-L, and mine is I-A-L. So thank you so much for knowing that because I don't actually spell my name out that often in text form for you guys. It says, got a couple of Smash Bros. Ultimate related questions. I feel like this is going to be a theme for the next Prime Answers. One, what are your initial thoughts on some retailers globally defying the release date of the game, and from that, a hacker getting his hands on a physical copy and then dumping the entire game onto the internet per story mentioned on Nintendo Life? So first off, on that question, I don't have a lot to say other than the intentional delaying of the release date, I think, is bad. I think the delay needs to not occur at the retailer level. It needs to occur at Nintendo's level. Nintendo needs to make sure that physical copies of their games are not arriving at retailers until the day before the game comes out. If that happens, that fixes all of this. Reality is, though, it doesn't really matter because Switch is an open platform, right? It is not bound to regions anymore. It's region-free. And as such, the fact that it leaked from Mexico means it's leaked worldwide. So it ended up not really mattering that some retailers delay it. If all retailers aren't delaying it, then it doesn't matter. All retailers must delay. I don't think it's ever prudent to delay from the street date. It needs to be delayed in the shipping to the store for the store's ability to sell the product early. If in Mexico they didn't receive the games until this upcoming Thursday, then there wouldn't have been any leaks. But unfortunately, they got their games a couple weeks early and then started selling immediately. So that's something that Nintendo and the retailers somewhere in the supply chain, they need to figure out how they can delay the games from coming out to retailers as close to release date as possible. I think that's the solution. I don't think it's an easy solution, by the way. And it's something why I addressed earlier this week that it could push Nintendo to be like, hey, look, we need to focus more on the digital front and really make people buy games more digitally than physically, because that would push Nintendo down a path of not having retail games, which, by the way, I don't want this to exist. But honestly, if games keep getting leaked like this from other retailers, I don't know what the solution is. I mean, they could sell them just online, but that's going to cut off a huge chunk of your fan base that wants to show up and have it literally at midnight. So I don't know if there's no easy solution for it, but it's not our problem. It's Nintendo's problem ultimately, because they're the ones that have to figure out how to best prevent these leaks. It's not really on the retailers. I mean, the retailers are the ones breaking street date, but I don't know. I mean, it seems to happen at every major game, so I don't really know. To me, this is a Nintendo issue they need to figure out, because the retailers obviously don't give two craps. Let's see here. On the Amiibo front, have you noticed that with all of the released information on new Amiibo for Smash Bros. Ultimate, Nintendo has yet to show us Simon and Richter Belmont Amiibo or give us a release date on these two Amiibo? What are your thoughts on that particular Amiibo situation? Thanks for the time to read this, and until next time, I'm out. All right, so I don't really think much of it. I think Simon and Richter Belmont are going to be like the last two Amiibo released in the line. They'll unveil them sometime next year, release them by the end of next year. Obviously, there'll be Amiibo for the new characters for the DLC as well, and those will go all the way into 2020. But yeah, I'm not that worried about it. Nintendo, if you look at how they've handled Amiibo in the past on Smash Bros., it's really an over time thing. So having not seen the Amiibo yet doesn't mean anything. Obviously, if you haven't seen them yet, you're not going to have a release date. I don't expect the release date for these Amiibo to be till sometime in summer or fall of next year, right right before Christmas, when maybe they start doing some Smash Bros. Bundles for the holidays. So yeah, I'm not really that worried about it or concerned about it, and I feel like they're still going to be coming. So just stay tuned. Nintendo kind of trickles the amiibo for Smash Bros. Out for long periods of time, years at times. So let's just pause. I'm worrying about it. You're not going to have your hands on it probably for a year. That's my best guess at this point. All right, the next one from the last video comes from Gazenja Fox. It says, what are your thoughts on Splatoon 2's content delivery model? Both how it went for that game and it's something you think Nintendo should replicate to that extent. 18 months or so of weekly weapon drops and monthly map drops, with a mode getting added 6 months in with other titles. For starters, I really liked how they did Splatoon 2, right? Free updates. They did this with Splatoon 1 as well. But Splatoon 1 didn't feel like a complete game at launch. It didn't feel like a complete game probably until a year later. Splatoon 2 at launch felt like a complete Splatoon game, and they just kept trickling out adding the new mode. Granted, I don't know that modes should be held back, but besides the new mode thing, I really like the addition of free content updates for a year and a half before they dropped the Octo expansion, which, by the way, they fully delivered on the Octo expansion. If you're giving free updates for a year and a half and you're going to charge for an expansion later, that expansion needs to be significant. Well, needless to say, the Octo expansion was significant and well worth the money, in my opinion, at least if you were going to get the Nintendo Switch Online service. If you're not going to get the Nintendo Switch Online service, you shouldn't buy Splatoon 2 because, I mean, the single player is good. I don't know that it's worth, $80, between the game and then the expansion. But still, I honestly like that model, but I think it only works in particular for a game like Splatoon or ARMS or something like that, because these games are perpetual online games, right? They're kind of like a service-style game. They're a game where you're trying to keep people engaged and playing online for long periods of time, just like Fortnite always releases new stuff, even though you have to buy it with real money. I mean, you can earn some currency in-game, but in general, buy it with real money. These games have to find ways to keep adding free content like that, because if they don't, it leads to the game stagnating, because you could keep having your Splatfest, but reality is, if there's nothing new happening between Splatfest, it really drags down the community. As an example, I'll use Madden, because I used to be a serious hardcore competitive Madden player in professional tournaments. And the thing with that game is, outside of the pro side of things, you're trying to make money and all this stuff and be the best you can be, the game maintained its popularity throughout an NFL season because of roster updates. Believe it or not, roster updates and trades and all that stuff and injuries keeps the game fresh when you're playing it online. And they added Ultimate Team as well now. That does that for some people. I've never been an Ultimate Team kind of guy, but for those that are, obviously that adds a whole new layer to the equation. So that's how they keep it fresh. And that just naturally happens because the sport of football itself keeps it fresh. Plus, they update the ratings and all that stuff throughout. For a game like Splatoon, you're not going to update ratings. You might do a little bit of balancing patches on weapons, but you're not really going to upgrade do much to the weapons. So if you're not adding new weapons, new maps, new stages, all that stuff throughout the course of the game's relevance, you're going to really lose relevancy. Madden falls off the face of the earth after the Super Bowl. Super Bowl happens, a bunch of people play it for like a month, and then boom, nobody cares anymore. We're all waiting for the next Madden. So football has an inbuilt way to deal with that. Splatoon is a standalone game without like an outside influence, doesn't have that. So I feel like this is a methodology that could be applied to Mario Kart in the future. If you look at Mario Kart, when they did Mario Kart 8 on Wii U, they didn't do like free updates as much as they did paid updates with their DLC pass. I think free updates are the future to keep games like Mario Kart 8 and Splatoon 2 and other things relevant. You might be like, well, Mario Kart 8, people are still playing that today. Well, yeah, there's more players being added to that player base every day, so that helps. But I do think free updates are pertinent, and even then we've had a couple free updates to Mario Kart. So free updates I think are pertinent. What they did with Splatoon 2 needs to be done with all of their perpetual online games moving forward. I think it's a great model, and it's proven to be massively successful for Nintendo. If they're not going to apply it to some of the games like Mario Kart or Mario Tennis or whatever, then they need to apply it to game. Well, although they do have a major update coming for Mario Tennis for free. 2.1. I think it's already out, actually. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about what Splatoon 2 could mean for the future of Nintendo's online games, which, again, first you got to stomach the online service before you can even worry about that. But for those of us like me that are stomaching it, It's great that this is what I want to see Nintendo do. So kudos to them. Next question comes from Sonic Forces 2017. He says, can you do a What's on My Nintendo Switch video? I can. I've done one before a long time ago. And so I think it's pertinent when we head into the new year for me to do a What's on My Nintendo Switch video towards the end of this month. In fact, I should probably jot that down on the whiteboard so I don't forget. Because I think that's a great way to just another kind of capping the year video. There's going to be multiple videos that kind of cap the year from top 10s or top 5s or like my personal games of the year in certain categories, like best games in each category for Switch in particular. Stuff like that. There'll be a bunch of capping the year. There'll be a full year recap video that's probably going to be a Prime Answers video, if I'm being completely honest. But Prime Answers video focused solely on the year. So I'll ask specifically for questions on reflections on the year of Switch, the year of Nintendo Prime, etc. So it's gonna be a nice reflection video. But yeah, I think that's a good idea to do towards the end of this month because then it'll be, hey, what's on my Nintendo Switch heading into 2019? I think would be a really, really cool video to make. I don't think it'll get a lot of views, 500, 700, maybe 1,000, because the only people that are going to care about that are the people that really care about what I personally am playing. And I don't think that a massive chunk of our audience cares as much. They care about my thoughts on things or the news more than what I'm playing. But for the part of our audience that does care, like you, I think it would be cool to do that for the end of the year. And it's really not that hard. It involves me recording basically me going through my game list on Switch and just giving some quick thoughts on the games as I go by them. So I don't really think that's too much to ask. In fact, that's probably a 3 or 4 minute video. It won't take me that long to do. So yeah, I think that's a good video to make towards the end of the year. Thanks for reminding me because I haven't done one. It's probably been a year since the last time I did an update on what's on my Switch. All right, the next batch of questions comes from Twitter, and as always, I read your Twitter handles, not your display names. At Corey Bohm says, what is your favorite Xenoblade game, or why haven't you played any Xenoblade game? So I had not played a Xenoblade game until Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So by default, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is my favorite Xenoblade game. Why haven't I played them before then? Mostly was a time thing. Back when the original Xenoblade came out, I was running ZeldaInformer.com. I was editor-in-chief and had a lot of responsibilities as a paid employee, and I was focusing on Skyward Sword coverage and walkthrough reviews. And even though Xenoblade came out a little later in the U.S., I still was focused on that. So I just didn't get an opportunity to play that. And then Wii U hype was happening. Then they showed that Wii U tech demo for Zelda, and obviously we got the Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, which took up a lot of my time, and then Breath of the Wild teases along the way, which again took up even more of my time, so I just never got into Xenoblade Chronicles X. But the thing is, I played a lot of other games. Xenoblade Chronicles X, to date, is the only Wii U exclusive game I have not played. I even played Devil's Third, for crying out loud, but I didn't play Xenoblade Chronicles X. And I don't know why that is. I still to this day, I don't know why I didn't at least pick it up and try it when I tried every other exclusive on the platform. So, I don't know. Maybe I was having my wah moment here, my Waluigi moment, but for some reason I didn't pick it up. And I like JRPGs, and I think maybe that was the ultimate fear. Is when I was a kid, I played a lot of JRPGs, right? The Chrono Triggers, the Final Fantasies, Secret of Mana, which is more action adventure style JRPG, and I would sink thousands of hours into those games. I mean, Final Fantasy VIII on PC, God, I must have had 800 hours in that game, and I still didn't beat it. That's the crazy thing. I'm afraid of sinking my teeth into JRPGs. One, because I really, really like them, but I like them to the point that I play them almost religiously. RPGs in general, I guess I'm that way with. I'll give you an example. I mean, World of Warcraft, which is obviously an ever-growing one, I've got years worth of playtime in that game. And it's not just because of raiding or whatever the case might be. It's because I get really engrossed in the world and the stories and the side quests. And even when I'm at max level, I'm still doing all the side quests. I can't help it. That's what I love about these games. So it's just like with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, why I've played through like chapter 1 and I've been avoiding diving back in because I know once I dive back in, that's it. You guys will not see me play a different game ever for months. And I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of what I'm going to miss if I do that. If I go back to my childhood and dive back that deep again. I think I'm not playing them out of fear, is what I'm saying. Fear of losing myself in them, which feels weird because that's why a lot of us play games. But I have a parent of 3. I've got a lot of games to cover, right? Let's Go and Smash and Fire Emblem next year and all these games coming out. And for like, what happens if for 8 months I'm only playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and I only talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 outside of news articles? I don't know if you guys will be into that. So I'm kind of scared how it would affect me if I did that. So that's why I haven't played the prior ones and why I've been avoiding playing more and more Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because I just know what's about to happen to me. Like, it came close to happening to me as I was playing it, and I stopped myself, said, nope, play something else, Nate, and then I've been avoiding going back. Man, let me tell you, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is pretty damn good so far, and I'm barely into it. Let's see here. At Keatsy92 says, hey, it's Gamehound. Welcome, Gamehound. What do you think Nintendo is most likely to show off at the Video Game Awards 2018, if anything? And if that's been asked in a previous Prime Answers video, it hasn't. Thoughts on Xenoblade not having an award nomination? It missed the 2017 VGA. I'm going to answer both these questions because it's interesting. So what's most likely to be shown off? Bayonetta 3. I think Bayonetta 3 or Metroid Prime 4, from Nintendo anyways, is the most likely games to be shown off. I think Bayonetta 3 is a shoo-in. I would be shocked if Bayonetta 3 is not shown. It was unveiled at the Game Awards last year. To me, it only makes sense to follow it up with the review trailer this year. Metroid Prime 4 I think is a bit more iffy. I know a lot of people want it to be there, and some YouTubers are like trying to hype up like it's going to be there. But I honestly think that's an E3 game next year. But I could be wrong because Nintendo does what Nintendo wants to do. It would be a good crowd to unveil it to, that's for sure. So it's definitely possible we see Metroid Prime 4. So those are the two most likely ones. I think Bayonetta 3 is practically guaranteed in my book. As for Xenoblade not having an award nomination, I think that's what sucks about Game Awards nominations in general. Any nominations or any awards that are given out that are not in January of the following year, basically, is always going to have issues with inclusion of games that release in that kind of dead zone period. So the dead zone period the Game Awards have chosen is basically the middle of November through the end of December. I mean, you think about it, Let's Go isn't up for any awards either. So the middle of November to the end of December, basically November and December, are kind of the dead period for the Game Awards. That's why you're seeing a lot more games coming out in October now that used to be November games, because they want to qualify for the awards and get the attention. The problem with Xenoblade is it released in December of 2017, and by the time you get a full year later to the next awards, no one's really talking about it anymore. Yeah, we have the Torna DLC, but they don't really do awards for best DLC, at least not yet. So we don't, that would have been an award it could have been up for as best DLC. So I'm not sure what to feel about it other than it's just kind of a product of how award shows work. This is why I like Easy Allies, by the way. Easy Allies, when they do their Game of the Year awards, they do them, I think, at the end of December or the beginning of January in a live stream. And because they do it that way, all the games that released that year get to be considered. Where Xenoblade landed in December of last year, and when you get to the next awards that are December later, you're like, oh, Xenoblade should qualify for it. It does. Technically, Jeff Keighley will tell you it qualifies for the next Game Awards. He'll tell you Super Smash Bros. Ultimate qualifies for the Game Awards next year. But by the time those Game Awards come around, there'll be so many other great, fantastic games that will come out, even from Nintendo, that people are just going to forget to include it in their nomination ballots. Because you've got to remember, the nominations are based on balloting by a panel, and then after that, it's voted on by a bigger panel, and obviously the gaming fans. So it just sucks. It sucks. The December releases always suck for Game Award purposes. They're great for consumers, but it does hurt for that. For my sake, I'm hoping Ninjala next year is amazing. That comes out hopefully early next year. But it sucks that, even knowing now, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate will probably not make it on the Game Awards next year. And that's a bigger deal than Xenoblade. So that's just kind of a timing thing. And I think the reason Jeff Keighley does it when he does is because, one, he doesn't want to get in the way of the holiday period, New Year's and Christmas. And he wants to do it at a time where he can attract companies that want to advertise their games heavily, so do new game announcement stuff. And if you do that at around the holidays, people aren't really going to be into that. So I think he's chosen a time that's best for commercial purposes and for fan interest. So Unfortunately, you just got to kind of assume any game slated for December, even November, probably won't be qualified for any game awards ever, which sucks, but that's life. Let's see here. At Rage in Silence says, what do you know about Switch's left Joy-Con drift? I've tried several different Joy-Cons, including brand new ones. I have calibrated it, updated it, and tried to spray it with air cleaner. Still drifts to the left. Could it be an actual Switch itself? Could it be the Switch itself? Probably not the Switch itself. Obviously, you've done all the methods that people have tried in the past, air cans, updating them, recalibrating. If it says you tried several different Joy-Cons, including brand new ones. Have you tried contacting Nintendo customer support? Because I had the left Joy-Con drift problem with my OG Joy-Cons before I sold those and replaced them with the blue ones, which I also had at launch, but I needed some money and whatever. I kept the blue ones because hello, Nintendo Prime. I had some drift issues with the OG ones, and then I recalibrated and updated them, and then it never happened again. I had it happen one time with my blue Joy-Con, my left Joy-Con, and then I recalibrated, and it's fine. I think there's a design flaw somewhere in the left Joy-Con that causes the drift in the first place. I do not think it's a Switch issue because the Switch is just receiving inputs from it. And you can say, well, maybe it's having a hard time receiving the inputs from the left Joy-Con. Then that would be a left Joy-Con design problem since the drift doesn't seem to happen with the right Joy-Con. So again, I think there's an issue with how they designed the Joy-Con, something on the board maybe. They did move the antenna on newer Joy-Cons to fix signal strength, but I don't know that they've fixed what mechanism, maybe in the stick itself or on the board is causing that drift. Usually drift is caused by the stick itself, if we're being honest. Something in the mechanism isn't returning to center perfectly, and that's causing the drift. And, if it was just happening with one set of Joy-Cons for you, I'd say, well, you obviously just have a broken Joy-Con. But it's happening with multiple, and all I can say is contact Nintendo customer support, take advantage of the warranties you have on them, send them in, and see if they can replicate it. Be sure, I'd even record videos of it happening, even after calibration and updating with a camera, with your phone or whatever, just to send visual evidence with your product as well to Nintendo to be like, hey, look, even if you can't get it to replicate, here's what's happening, here's the scenarios. I get it to happen in, so they could try to replicate your scenarios. And see what the issue is. Because they'll probably just send you a new Joy-Con anyways, but they have to send you Joy-Cons that don't have that drift issue. So, obviously in the service call, be like, hey, I also request that you test out, if you send me a new one to replace it, test that one out too and make sure it doesn't drift. It's possible you just got extremely unlucky because the left Joy-Con drift issue doesn't seem to be a widespread thing where people aren't able to fix it and that most people are making it go away. This is making me think that you might just be unlucky, very unlucky. But, again, customer support's the best way to go for it. I don't think there's an actual issue. Your Switch itself could be broken, and maybe you need to send your Switch in with it. But, personally, I don't think that's the issue. I have a launch Switch unit, and my left Joy-Con issue went away. So, I don't know what to tell you. I don't think it's a very common issue in terms of it repeatedly happening. You're the first person that's told me they're still having it happening. So, that's really all I could say. I don't know. Next up is at TDome85. He says, hey, Nate, can you give an explanation about the rules in which you can use Nintendo content in your videos? So I'm going to actually combine this with another one from Edward Norton because since you asked that question, the rules have changed. Edward Norton says, this is for Prime Questions. Can you think of the pros and cons of Nintendo's new guidelines after the fall of the Creators Program? So first off, to address T-Dome's point, how it used to work is Nintendo didn't want you using anything. It didn't matter if it was gameplay footage. It didn't matter if it was trailers. It didn't matter if it was music. It didn't matter if it was cutscenes. It didn't matter whatever it was. You weren't supposed to use any of it. But what I was doing and what other YouTubers did is we worked around the system. Now, what we were doing, technically Nintendo didn't want us to do. To give you an example, anytime you saw me do voiceover gameplay that had Nintendo gameplay clips in it, whether it was Breath of the Wild, whether it was Splatoon 2, whether it was Xenoblade Chronicles, whether it was even Octopath Traveler, all that Square Enix, whether it was any of that stuff, Nintendo didn't want me doing it. But how we worked around it is Nintendo was only using the automated system for these claims. So what does that mean? Essentially, there's a system on YouTube that lets copyright owners automatically flag other videos that might be potentially infringing on copyright. It's an automated system. And what we were doing was editing around the automated system. So no music, or sound effects, because that automatically triggered it. No cutscenes, because that automatically triggered it. It had to be, more dynamic style gameplay that's unpredictable and unable to be detected automatically. And that's what we did. So what we were doing, it wasn't so much that there was a rule that we can use Nintendo content. The rule was you couldn't use Nintendo content unless you were part of the creators program. So we just circumvented the rules. We basically broke the rules because Nintendo was only using the automated process for it. So basically we just worked around the automated process. How it's changed now, of course, is Nintendo is completely destroying the creators program and letting us freely use anything we want. Trailers, gameplay. They do say no music, although I think the music clause applies to people who are just directly ripping music and uploading them as their own tracks. Nintendo doesn't want that to happen. Plus, Nintendo usually uploads music themselves. So I think that's just a Nintendo thing and how they want to handle music. It doesn't mean you can't use Nintendo music in your videos. A lot of the music comes from the games anyways. And they said basically as long as there's original commentary or something going on that isn't just the sound effects and the music, you'll be fine. Because the sound effects and the music are still how they're going to copyright claim, but they're going to copyright claim now with the automated system on things that are straight up through the whole thing, just the music, rather than looking for like little bits and clips. It'll be, well, if it's only this clip from, say, the 10-second mark to the 15-second mark of Nintendo music that doesn't have any other noise happening, they're going to leave that alone. But if it's like 5 minutes straight of just Nintendo music and nothing else, then they're going to come in with their ninjas and be like, yeah, automatic claim. So it's going to be something like that. They're using the automated system. So what's happening now is we can basically do anything we want. We can use any gameplay we want. We can use trailers, which I did not expect them to let us use. Everything is fair game. So for the pros and cons, it's pretty much all pros. There's almost no cons to this. The only con that's out there is a thing I like to do at Zelda Informer. So a lot of video walkthroughs, right, have a lot of commentary and Let's Play style or explanation happening, which has to happen now. But at Zelda Informer, I preferred making a different kind of video walkthrough. A kind of walkthrough that literally followed the guide step by step and had no commentary. So it would just be straight gameplay following the guide to a T. And that would be the walkthrough. Unfortunately, we still have some of those walkthrough videos on my channel. Unfortunately, you can't do those anymore. Those are not allowed by Nintendo. They weren't allowed once they started cracking down anyways. But those are still not allowed because those are straight gameplay. They want, even though it was gameplay with a purpose for walkthroughs, it doesn't matter. They want commentary. So if I commentate the walkthrough, then it fits within the system. So that's kind of where Nintendo's sitting with it. That's the only con, I guess, besides not being able to upload just straight up music tracks and make a playlist of music tracks. That's going to be affected, but that's always been affected anyways, so it's nothing new, and I doubt Nintendo's going to take out the stuff. They're just going to put their ads on it. So I'm not that worried about it. Honestly, it's mostly pros. We don't have to work around the system anymore. We don't have to cleverly edit things. On certain games, you couldn't use it all. Like if you used anything from Mario Kart or anything from Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, no matter how you edited it, even like different filters on the video, it would still get claimed. So again, it freely lets us do anything. Reviews massively were the ones impacted the most by the old program because things like Angry Video Game Nerd or Angry Joe and stuff like that, they couldn't really review Nintendo games because Nintendo would claim all of the revenue, and it's their job. So like to have a company take all the money from your job just felt really strange. And now Nintendo openly lets everyone use it. They still say we own all the copyrights, which is legally true, but they're basically like, you can do whatever you want with it. And it's Nintendo recognizing that, hey, free advertising is free advertising. Why would we try to suppress that for the sake of making a little bit extra money when I'm sure what they saw with the creators program over time is they weren't really properly suppressing anyways because people like me were still getting away with using the clips, and they didn't really want to punish me for it because, I mean, I'm advertising their products openly and freely for them. And two, I think they realized the revenue they were getting from it was so minuscule, it really wasn't worth just taking it out of other people's hands. So let's see here. The next question is from our patrons. It's just one question, and it's from Keatsy, who says, who's a former patron now. Their patronage fell off heading into December, but they were a patron when they asked. Said, who do you plan on maining in Smash Bros. Ultimate? I mean, Pikachu and Toon Link have always been my mains. They'll probably always be my mains, but I want to dive into Inkling. I'll probably give Ridley a shot. Piranha Plant looks really, really fun when that comes out. So I'll probably try everyone, to be honest. But those are the ones I've always been most comfortable with. So they'll probably end up maining him. Maybe I'll end up maining Kirby for a little bit, since in the story mode, that's the first character you get to play with. So we'll see. I'm pretty excited in general just to play Smash Bros. There's so many characters. I'll probably pick out like a batch of 10 of them that I'm probably going to end up spending a lot of time with. And those will probably make like my top 10 list of my favorite characters, because they'll be characters I actually want to play after experimenting. So, yeah, we'll see what it ends up being. But in the past, it's always been Pikachu and or Toon Link. So I know I'll be most comfortable with those heading into this game, but I'm going to be branching out and trying other characters. So we'll see where I end up. Once it's a question I can't really answer. You know, the gameplay feel has to fit what I enjoy. So, all right, the next batch comes from our community post on YouTube. So the first question comes from Blackfeather22. It says, what games from the 3DS and Wii U library do you think should be ported to the Switch come 2019? Nothing from the 3DS. 3DS is still relevant. They're still selling it brand new. There's no reason to port over those games, even though I would like to see them do it. You know, Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D ported and put in HD. The problem is, any game for 3DS has to be put in HD, which would require a lot more work, so I don't know if it's going to happen. I think The World Ends With You is a special case back from the DS era. I don't think that's going to be a normal thing moving forward, so I do not expect a lot of 3DS games to ever come to Switch. When it comes to the Wii U, what games from the Wii U library do you think will be ported to the Switch in 2018? I think Pikmin 3. And Super Mario Maker, The Wonderful 101. We're already getting new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. So that's already, that one for sure we're getting. So I think those 4 will be like their Wii U games for next year. And there's a few more to still port over, by the way. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, hello. But I think they might wait on Tokyo Mirage Sessions till 2020. I think it's an excellent game, by the way. Massively underrated and underplayed. And there's a few others as well. And we'll get into those maybe in a future video on what Wii U titles are still left to port. Let's see here. Yoshi _8888 says, do you like Yoshis? Yes or yes? I like Yoshi. I've never been a fan of the multiple different colored Yoshis. To me, Yoshi's is green. That's what he's supposed to be. It's what he'll always be to me. Multiple Yoshis, even in Smash when they did like that thing where you could kill like 1,000 Yoshis or 100 Yoshis. Wasn't a fan. Single Yoshi. That's all I need. So do I like Yoshis? No. Do I like Yoshi? Yes. Mark Greenberg says, who will win the Super Bowl? Go Saints, who dat? Man, I'm going to go against the grain, and it's either going to be the Rams, which I guess isn't too far against the grain, or oh man, I gotta be careful here. Or New England. I hate saying the Patriots again, and they haven't looked that great this year. But Kansas City just had to dump their running back for off-the-field reasons, and their running back is one of the best in the game. So that's really going to hurt their offense, regardless of how well their backup performs. And then you also have the Saints, who I think were exposed a bit by the Cowboys. The Cowboys, I think, showed the kind of defense you need to play to rattle Drew Brees. So I think that's going to come to fruition in the playoffs. I think they might still go to the NFC Championship game, but then lose to the Rams, who I think have a better defense than the Cowboys overall, and will use the Cowboys' blueprint to rattle Drew Brees. So I think that's just the way it's going to be. The Saints could obviously go and win the whole thing. They're obviously one of the teams out there that should be favored to do so. But, yeah, and the reason New England, Kansas City fell off, I just don't trust Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh's got a couple rings, especially with Ben Roethlisberger. I just don't know. They're so up and down. I just don't know with them. And New England, I don't know. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady seem to always get it together by the playoffs. So they were last year in the Super Bowl. I'm just going to assume they're going to somehow get it together again for this year. So let's see here. Next up, we have from Lunar X Luck, who says, was the GameCube the best Nintendo console? No. Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo had all the third-party support, plus all the Nintendo games, plus an era of visual styles that age very, very well. If you go back and play any Super Nintendo game today and you just literally run an HD filter over it, it still looks just as good today as it did back then. GameCube games do not. GameCube games look significantly worse today because they used art styles, like realistic art styles, like in Resident Evil 4, that don't translate as well today. Metroid Prime's art style does not translate as well today as it would if it was HD remastered. It would translate a little better, but still wouldn't translate perfectly well to what Metroid Prime 4, as an example, will probably look like. So I honestly think GameCube had a lot of great games, right? Lots of great games. But I think Super Nintendo had more great games, more variety of great games, and had all the third-party support. Ergo, no, it can't top Super Nintendo. A lot of people think that GameCube, a lot of people have GameCube as their favorite. And I know Super Nintendo is my favorite, but I think my reasoning for Super Nintendo being my favorite makes more sense. You had a more comfortable controller with more buttons, including shoulder buttons. You had a bigger variety of third-party games. You had a higher volume of excellent third-party games and excellent Nintendo games. You still had the F-Zeros and the Mothers of the world happening back then that you didn't happen really much on GameCube. And it just felt like Super Nintendo is ideally the generation that we want Nintendo to have every single time there's a new generation, and they've never gotten back to that, and they probably never will because third parties will never fully buy back into Nintendo. But I honestly think GameCube is a great little system. It's an underrated little system. Actually, I don't even know if it's underrated. So many fans hold it as their best or their favorite Nintendo. I mean, basically, the way it works is your favorite Nintendo system is whatever Nintendo system you grew up with as a kid, right? For some, it's N64, SNES, NES, Game Boy, GameCube, Wii, believe it or not, at this point. So honestly, I think a lot of people that have GameCube as their best is because they grew up with GameCube as like their primary system as a kid. I grew up with SNES and N64 as mine, but even then, I still played a hell of a lot of NES and stuff because I didn't have a SNES right away at launch. I was playing my dad's NES a lot, so Sega Genesis as well. All right, let's see here. Will MCXD says, excited for Smash Bros. Ultimate. He also asked about my mains. I already went over that. Yeah, I'm excited for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I want to do a midnight stream of it. I don't know if I'm going to. I don't know if I'm buying it digitally or whatnot. That's probably the only way I'll be able to do a midnight one. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm really excited for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Most excited I've been for a Smash Bros. Game probably since the N64 one. And that doesn't mean anything. I've played all the other ones. I'm a casual player, right? I'm not like those hardcore competitive guys. So my perspective on Smash is different than a lot of other people's. So I'm excited for it, though. I can't wait to dive into the story mode and the classic mode and all those additional modes. And obviously play against some of you guys and get wrecked. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up better at Smash Bros. Ultimate than I've ever been at Smash before. I think Smash 64 is where my true pro-level skills lie. But let's see here. Bite-sized Chocolate says, how tough are you? Originally, I was going to do like a little tough man thing for you and like crush a can in my hands. And, there's a trick I used to do about opening a beer bottle with my teeth. But honestly, like I was really young and dumb when I did that kind of stuff. I honestly don't want to chip a tooth or do anything stupid. So how tough am I? I guess I'm a baby. I always say I'm a baby. But I'm a lot tougher than I look. Let's put it that way. People assume I'm a pansy for good reasons. But when push comes to shove, I'm pretty tough. I mean, you could argue I'm tough because I deal with pain every single day. Pain in my ankles, pain in my feet, pain in my knees. No matter what, I always have that. I've had that since it was not even a weight thing. I had that back when I was a kid. So I've always had to deal with that. But I think it's easier to deal with pain that you expect and have all the time versus new pains. But yeah, I'm tougher than I look, but probably not as tough as I want to be. Dynamic Kirby says, what do you think about the whole Article 13 discussion? Why aren't more people talking about it? Well, for starters, Article 13 only affects 7% of my audience. I finally crunched the numbers. It's only 7% of my viewership over the past year that comes from Europe. Most of it that comes from the UK. So 5% comes from the UK, 2% comes from Germany, France, all the other European countries. So a very small percentage of my audience is affected by it, which means viewership-wise, I'm really not going to be impacted, like hardly at all. Not to a level where I'll probably even notice a 7% drop-off. Especially if viewership's increasing as it is now, I'm definitely not going to notice that 7% drop-off. So that's one thing. It doesn't affect a majority of my audience, so there's very little reason for me to talk about it. Two, Like as an example, when I talked about the stuff with Ajit Pai and all that in the past, that affects like 70% of my audience. So that's way more relevant to my channel and can massively impact a lot more of my viewership. So that's one reason why I haven't talked more about it. As for what do I think about the Article 13 stuff, I think Article 13 has its heart in the right place. They're trying to make it. They're trying to make platforms, I guess, more accountable for copyright infringement. And I don't know that there's anything wrong with that per se. But I think Article 13 needs to be amended a bit so it only applies to platforms that already are not policing copyright. YouTube already has, albeit a flawed, but already has a system in place for copyright. If you feel like your copyright's infringed, literally it's a few clicks away from filing a dispute, and then you could do legal ramifications or anything else you want on top of that. So YouTube already has a way to deal with it. It's not perfect. It could get better. It's probably going to get better and change over time. But I feel like Article 13 should apply to websites that do not have such policies in place. Does Dailymotion have a policy in place for it? I don't know. I see copyrighted stuff all over Dailymotion. So do they have a working policy in place? I don't know. I know YouTube's done a lot better with it. It's been a lot harder to copyright infringe on YouTube. So I think Article 13 has the right idea, but the wrong execution. Because what's going to happen is YouTube is going to have to black out Europe. And that sucks. That really sucks for Europeans because YouTube, as an example, I was working around the automated system, right? But technically I was still copyright infringing. And it didn't matter if Nintendo came after me or not because the government can be like, yeah, we saw this video that had gameplay of something that person didn't own or a meme or an image or something that person didn't have rights to use. And because of that, even though the rights owner doesn't care, it doesn't matter. Because of that, we're going to fine you guys. And that's the problem with Article 13. As much as it protects the companies, all the fines, the levies, the crackdowns is all money going to the government's pockets. And I think that's the problem with Article 13 is it has the right idea but the wrong execution. The execution is just lining government pockets. And Google is going to refuse to do that. They're going to be like, look, yeah, a lot of people's content has something unoriginal in it that they don't own the rights to, that they didn't ask permission for, but the original copyright owner doesn't care. They don't care. Because the government knows that they don't own that copyright, and because the government knows they're going to fine YouTube. It's a very flawed system that really directly combats the internet on the whole. Imagine an internet where you couldn't repost memes, like period, without even with proper credit. You couldn't do it because you don't own it. Even if you had permission, doesn't matter. Imagine that's the internet you lived in, and that's kind of what this article does, and that sucks. So. It needs to be amended. I don't know. It's not going to be amended, I don't think. I'm pretty sure it's going to be going into effect next year. So I honestly feel bad for the people who consume content in Europe more than I feel bad for YouTube. YouTube will be fine. It's going to lose a huge chunk of an audience, but it'll be fine. I don't know. This is all the more reason what people are going to do. By the way, if you're actually one of our 7% of our audience that watches us in Europe, VPNs are legal. Even in your country, they're free in a lot of cases. There are paid VPNs as well if you want a more permanent solution. But you can VPN it up, access YouTube, and still watch whatever you want, and just change your account from European to like American or something, and you will be fine, and you'll still freely be able to use YouTube. But unfortunately, a vast majority of Europeans' audience doesn't even know what a VPN is. Most internet users don't know what a VPN is, so they don't know how VPNs can be beneficial in moments like this when governments are trying to censor what you're able to see. So, let's see here. Ultimate Keymaster says, if you could pick any game that is 100% impossible to come to Switch, example, first party of another platform, licensing issues like GoldenEye, or zero chance of anyone caring enough to re-release an old game, what would your topic be? I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Conker's Bad Fur Day, especially the Xbox version, to something like Switch. But beyond something like that, which I think that has like a 1%, 2% chance of happening, I think it's very low. I don't know, like a lot of Sony's, I'd love to see Spider-Man, on PlayStation 4 on Switch. I think it'd be awesome to play that portably. I would love to see the Uncharted series. Stuff like that. There's a lot of things I want to see. A lot of third-party games that are, Red Dead Redemption 2. So yeah, I just games like that feel like they have no shot to ever be on Switch, especially the Sony exclusives, would be really, really cool. And Ultimate Keymaster has his pick. He said, if I had to pick something at random, I'd say Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, for Sega Genesis. It was also on Super Nintendo, I believe, if I remember right. Since it would require Sega to bug Hasbro and bang presto to add it to that Genesis collection on Switch. Seahawks24 Rule says, what unannounced game published by Nintendo do you think Nintendo will announce next for Switch? What series are you most anticipating to get on Switch that isn't already present on the console, a Nintendo series? I know you want Madden. You can do third party too? Question. So what unannounced Nintendo game do you think Nintendo will announce next? Star Fox. I made the prediction on our podcast, kind of a teaser for the podcast coming on Monday, that Star Fox will be announced at Game Awards. So Star Fox. Star Fox something. I don't know what it is, but something. Let me see. What series am I most anticipating to get on Switch that isn't already present on the console? Fire Emblem. I like Fire Emblem, so I'm really happy that's coming next year. Animal Crossing's up there as well. I'd like to see Wave Race come back, but it's not going to happen. Let me see. And let me see. For a third party, obviously Madden's up there for me. But really anything. Red Dead Redemption 2, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, all that stuff. And I know Odyssey is on Switch in Japan. Whether it comes through streaming service or natively, the next Assassin's Creed game on Switch, I would like to see happen. But doesn't seem likely. Xander Sylvester says, do you think the next Animal Crossing will be way different from the last ones? Kind of like how Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey both broke the expectations for what a game in their respective series should do, or do you think it will be relatively similar to the last few, and why? By the way, I don't think Mario Odyssey broke expectations of what a game in their respective franchise. Like, Mario Odyssey didn't Breath of the Wild the Mario series. Mario Odyssey is Super Mario 64, but different. That's what it is. It's Super Mario 64 / Mario Sunshine with its own unique take on things. It's not different. Breath of the Wild's so different. There's never been a game in the Zelda series since Zelda 1 that is remotely close to Breath of the Wild. But Mario Odyssey has been done before. A similar built type of game to Mario Odyssey has happened. We just haven't seen it since the N64. So I disagree that Mario Odyssey belongs in that conversation. I just felt fresh because, again, it's been since Mario 64 for a lot of people because they didn't play Sunshine. As for, Animal Crossing is going to be mostly... Animal Crossing is what it is, right? They can innovate and allow you to build a city or something like that. I guess they had city folk, but I don't know. Animal Crossing is Animal Crossing. It's kind of like Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem's Fire Emblem. It's going to be a tactical strategy game. Animal Crossing is going to be a game where you're doing a bunch of quests to build up a house from people and maintain the town and become mayor. That's what you're going to do. It's just what it's going to be. They can have you become governor, I guess, and expand it, but that's just a natural evolution more so than completely different. So Animal Crossing is Animal Crossing. It's always going to be Animal Crossing. I don't think it's going to be massively different from prior games. It's in HD, and it'll be better than Pocket Camp. So, next up, we have Seahawks Rule 24 says, hey, Nate, I know you are friends with OJ. Have you ever thought about trying to get on his podcast or having him on your podcast? If he was on your podcast, I don't remember that episode. He has been on my podcast. He was on the Smashcast, which happened after Smash Bros. Reveal or before? I can't remember. It happened during the summer. So OJ was on a podcast before. I would like to get him on a follow-up podcast after Smash Bros. Comes out sometime this month. I have to talk to him about that because he does streams every single day, so I don't know if I can make this work with his schedule. But I would love to get him on a podcast for the Super Smash Bros. Stuff. I also want to get She Says back on a podcast as well. He was also on the Smashcast. So if I can get She Says and OJ to come back together for a Smashcast 2.0 in wake of Ultimate releasing, that's my plan. I don't know if it's going to work. I have to talk to those two soon about that. Plus, I got to work with my schedule. December's busy family-wise, holidays and all that. So, as for getting on his podcast, the problem with his podcast, and I've never directly asked him if I could be on. I'm sure if I asked him if I could be on, he'd have no problem having me on an episode. He does his podcast at a time when I'm watching my children. He doesn't do it at night. See, my podcast is recorded at night at 9 p.m., specifically because that's after my kids are in bed. His podcast is live, and it's done during a primetime time to watch it. So he's doing it at like 3, 4, 5 o'clock, which for me is kids get off the bus, kids have homework, kids need to have dinner, etc. So I can't do it. So the reality is I would love to be on his podcast, but it's at a time that I can't be on it. It's not like Spawnwave's podcast. Spawncast, he does it at 8 p.m. on Saturdays. I could work it out where I could make a Spawncast if I knew ahead of time. I can't do that for OJ's stuff, especially on Thursdays or Fridays whenever he does it because my fiance works. So it's just not going to happen, unfortunately, unless the stars align and there happen to be a time that I don't have my kid, probably during summer, where my kids spend the night or are spending the day with their grandparents or something, that I'd be able to do that. But that's not going to be till after the school year. So let's see here. Seahawks Rule 24 had another question. He said, which Smash characters are you most excited to try? Inklings. And which new / and or existing character do you think brings the most to the game? Jeez. I mean, probably Simon, the old Castlevania people, because Dracula looks like it's going to be in the game, so they're also bringing a boss character in some form to the game with a new stage. So I think those guys bring the most. Let's see. Collar Mar says, how do you feel about the fact your comment section acts like a pirate's nest? He's talking about game pirating. Any chances of self-reflection? The Switch update video is what he's referring to. Pirates distribute illegal games. One thing I got to note on that is not all pirates are actually distributors. Some people literally just download the ROMs and that's it. You can download, like, even from a peer-to-peer network, you can download the ROM and then turn off seeding. And when you turn off seeding, you are no longer letting people download it from you. So you are pirating the games, but you're not distributing the games. There is a difference between pirating. A lot of pirates do distribute, but not all pirates distribute. I want to make that very, very clear that pirates aren't necessarily distributors of illegal games. They can be, of course. Let's see here. And alerting others that it exists is something that only benefits them. Think long and hard what role the current YouTube community and you played in spreading this illegal stuff into the limelight. This is a two-sided situation between good and bad. I don't think I play any role in regards to spreading it to more people doing it. Here's reality. People were pirating games before the internet was popular. People were pirating games after the internet game became popular. People are pirating games whether I talk about it or not. Me talking about it doesn't make more people pirate. If you look at the comment section you're referring to, because there's a number of people in that comment section openly admitting they're pirating the game. They were already pirating the game before I talked about it. So me talking about it didn't create more people pirating it. What me talking about it did drew attention to the fact that, one, Nintendo is combating that piracy, which for people who want it to end is a wholly positive update they want to hear about. Two, it also, in covering the hacking scene or the pirating scene, being like, oh, this game leaked, in covering it, you're drawing attention to that fact to Nintendo, so they pay more attention to the leaked stuff happening, which Nintendo has been cracking down hard on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate leaks. And a lot of that is because of people like me that have drawn attention to the fact they exist in the first place. So that's the positive side of it. The negative side you're saying is, well, potentially someone who didn't know it leaked now knows it leaked and they're going to go out and look for it. The people that are into pirating and leaks, speaking as someone who used to do it, I never relied on YouTube or a website or anyone else telling me a game leaked. You know what I would do? Smash Bros. Ultimate for free. Google search. All you had to do. It's all anyone who wants to pirate games does. Google search, Google search, Google search, you'll find it. Or you'll find a forum somewhere talking about it. So reality is that I don't think we have anything to do with piracy. I think piracy is happening at a rampant pace regardless of us covering it. I don't think us covering it brings the kind of attention to it you think it does in terms of creating more people pirating. I think we bring attention to it so that the people that own the copyrights can do something about it. Because the bigger deal you make about it publicly, the worse Nintendo looks. So the better Nintendo wants to look by tackling the problem. So I honestly completely disagree with you. As someone who openly admits I used to pirate games in the 90s, I did not rely on anyone telling me these games existed. Literally just Google search. That's all you had to do, and that's all you still have to do today. So, yeah. People who want to pirate games or pirate movies or pirate any of this stuff, they're not relying on YouTubers talking about it. Trust me. They're already doing it regardless of us talking about it. Youngster Joey says, long term, do you think Nintendo can make home consoles without the handheld capabilities of the Switch, or does it have to be featured in every new console from here until the end of time? I mean, never is a long time. You know, can they make it a thing that goes under your box in the future? Yeah, it might just be a streaming box for all we know. So they could return to it. I don't know when they would or if they want to or if they're interested in it. Nintendo's always been best with handheld, and they're dominating again with handheld. Well, hybrid handheld, I guess. So I think that's all they're thinking about right now is that. Potentially they have something in the works that's different, but I think that's where they're leaning right now. Maybe virtual reality, potentially, in the future. Will929 says, considering that Sony and Microsoft have brought better accessibility features to their Xbox and PlayStation lines, do you think Nintendo will add more accessibility features? I'm mainly asking about screen readers. If I'm going to be expected to pay for an online service to even play Smash online, I'd like to be able to manage that subscription myself, if possible. By the way, I'm totally blind Switch owner, hence my interest in the topic. I mean, you're probably not completely blind if you're playing Smash. I assume, maybe you're like 80%, 90% blind or something. So you still have to be able to see something, I guess, for a game that's, I don't know. I'm not blind, so I guess I don't get it. My fiance's, or my future father-in-law, I should say, is now 70% blind. But he can still see, kind of. It's got to be really close to him, but he can see. I guess I can't sympathize with that. But what I can say is, obviously, Nintendo should try to cater even to the niche audiences out there, including a screen reader of some kind to read off the text. I think is necessary. I don't know why Nintendo's been in support of this kind of stuff in the past. So with Sony and Microsoft doing it, I don't know why Nintendo hasn't done it yet, other than the fact that no one's brought it up. So hey, Nintendo, maybe I'll send this episode off to them as well. People would kind of like to have screen readers on Switch. It's a simple software update for you. I know how they work, so just include it as a setting in the OS. I think it would be very beneficial for people like Will here that is blind and wants to play these games but wants a screen reader, especially for managing the subscription. You can manage this, by the way, you can manage the subscription through your PC. So if you use a reader on your PC or a tablet or a phone, you can manage your subscription through that. So I should let you know, if you're worried about managing the online subscription, you can do that through a device that has screen reading. But if you're trying to do it through Switch, can you even manage it through Switch? I'm not even sure if you can manage it through Switch. Let me think about that. I mean, I got it for a year, but I don't even know if I can go on Switch and cancel. Huh. That's something I might want to look up for next Prime Answers is, can you even manage your subscription on your Switch? Besides, you can get the subscription, but can you shut it off? Huh. I have a lot more questions now about the online service that I wasn't thinking about before. Dan Lee says, what kind of student have you been? I don't... more the geeky collecting A one, so I'm guessing like a straight A student. Haven't been that. Or the more nerdy, I only talk to mom and all other leave me alone one, or just completely different. I don't even know what kind of student is. Like I'm 32 years old, so I definitely don't just only talk to my mother. I don't really talk to anyone about my schooling. My fiance a little bit, but it's a weird question. I don't even know how to answer this, to be honest. I'm only just now getting back into school after taking like a year and a half off. I'm not even in school yet. I should be back in spring semester, I hope. If not, then I guess I'll start summer next year. I'm still in the process of applying, so I know I'll get in. That's not the issue. It's just getting FAFSA sorted and all these documents you have to sort out for it. But man, weird question. Not a straight A student, but I mean I do go okay. I get B's and stuff. So, and this Dan Lee's from Germany. So, sorry if by the time you see this video, Article 13 makes it so you can't. Wandering Boober says, what do you think we will see from Nintendo at the Game Awards? With 10 announcements at least, Nintendo is most likely one of them. Bayonetta 3. Also, do you think Nintendo can make their 20 million unit goal after the Black Friday surge? Not just the Black Friday surge, Smash surge. I think they can make their goal. The question is, will they? I don't know. I think they'll probably fall a million or so short, but they could make it. It's definitely in the cards. Also, Metro Prime 4 could be unveiled. I've already talked about that before, so I don't think we're going to see any like Skyward Sword HD or any surprises like that. So could be wrong though. I mean, this is Nintendo. We don't really know what they're going to do. Grizzly Manx says, what games are you looking forward to in the 2019 lineup? We have so far. Doesn't have to be from Nintendo. I'm just curious. I'm personally looking forward to Pokemon again, and of course Luigi's Mansion 3. Luigi's Mansion 3, Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem. That we know about so far. Those are the ones I'm really looking forward to. Axe325XXEXE asked, should Nintendo finally embrace system-based achievements on the Switch? They should, but they won't. So yes is my answer, but it won't matter what I think, because they're not going to do it. The games from Meh Gaming are such. Did you play Pokemon Go? Yes. If so, what team/level were you when you stopped playing or are on right now? I haven't played in a while, so I guess when I stopped... here's the thing. I never played it that long. I was probably level 4, level 5. I really wasn't that much into it. So I never spent a ton of time with Pokemon Go. Mostly because I don't get out of the house much. I'm a YouTuber that works from home and has a family, and I do things with my kids, and we do go for walks, but, it's not like I'm going for miles and miles every day, so I just don't really get to play that often. When I do go for walks, I do play. It just isn't very often. And now with my torn meniscus, it's like not at all. So it's more so I'd play it more if I was traveling more, but I'm not traveling more, so it's not really a game that fits me. But when I do travel, I do play. I do enjoy it. And they're adding battles, by the way. They're adding player versus player battles now. Awesome. Can't wait for that. Let me see here. Poxel says, how much money have I spent on gaming stuff, including consoles, games, and anything you use to game? Thousands. So, like tens of thousands. I wouldn't be surprised in my life I've spent 15 to 20 grand on games. Easily. On games, accessories, game consoles. I mean, consoles alone, you spent like 3,000 or 4,000. So yeah, I mean, it's up there. 15. I mean, I'm 30 in my 30s. 15 to 20 grand sounds about right. I'd have to go back and literally try to make a list of everything I've ever bought, and there's things I still would forget. So yeah, probably 15 to 20 grand in my lifetime of probably 20 years, I'd say, since I was a kid and spent allowance money on gaming stuff. So yeah. Two Soup says, what do you think of the possibility of a Metroid Prime trilogy and or Prime 4 trailer is at the Game Awards? Say like a 20% chance on Metroid Prime 4, 5% chance on the trilogy. The trilogy will not appear without Metroid Prime 4, so take that for what you will. So 20% chance we see Metroid Prime 4, and then a 5% chance in total that we'll see, that we'll see a trilogy announced at all. Edward Norton says, what is the pros and cons of the new Nintendo guidelines for YouTubers of the fall on the Nintendo Creators Program? Kind of already been answered before. Blackfeather22 says, what Nintendo series do you want to make a comeback? Wave Race 64, Snowboard Kids, Mother, Earthbound series, stuff like that. Stuff that's never going to come back. Star Tropics, I'd like to see a follow-up. Sonic Ice 24 says, will you get FNAF for Switch? So Five Nights at Freddy's. No, probably not. I'm not really into FNAF. I actually, Eric said he might pick it up. He actually understands the appeal of it. I get the appeal of it as well. It's just not my kind of thing. But yeah, I might try it out if Eric gets it, or if there's a demo. Anyways, that's going to do it. That's it for Prime Answers. Long episode. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. Be sure to enter our Nintendo Switch Smash Bros. Ultimate Bundle giveaway down in the description. Again, 50,000 subscriber giveaway. Again, thank you so much for checking us out this week. Give me feedback on the channel, on anything else. Ask your questions for next week down in the comments, and I will catch all of you guys in the next one.